I love baseball. You could probably tell that. I love talking about baseball. I love listening to baseball on the radio, listening to other people talk about baseball. So needless to say, I've been looking forward to today's program. As most of you know, Howard Lincoln was a key player in the formation of the ownership group that saved the Seattle Mariners in 1992. He was named chairman and CEO of the Mariners in September of 1999. And in February 2000, he retired from his position as chairman of Nintendo of America to devote his full efforts to the Mariners. Philanthropy is also important to Howard. In addition to his strong personal support for the Mariners Care Foundation, he serves as chairman of the Children's Hospital Foundation, was the 2003-2004 campaign chair of the United Way of King County, is a member of the Board of Trustees of Western Washington University, and serves on the boards of the Arts Fund, the Bellevue Boys and Girls Club, and the Chief Seattle Council of the Boy Scouts of America. And I must note that following his graduation from the University of California School of Law, Howard served in the United States Navy from 1996 to 1970. We could have been shipmates. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Howard Lincoln.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and have this opportunity to talk about the Seattle Mariners. Another season of Mariner baseball is just around the corner. Mike Hargrove and his coaches are meeting at Safeco Field all this week in preparation for spring training and the upcoming season. This afternoon, the Mariners are hosting lunch at Safeco Field for all of our friends in the media. We've just announced today that Edgar Martinez will be inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame at a pregame ceremony at Safeco Field on June 2nd. And the Mariners Annual Fan Fest will be held this weekend at Safeco Field. The start of spring training in Peoria, Arizona is 21 days away, which means that there are 67 days left to opening day, April 2nd, at Safeco Field. And we're going to start the regular season against, of all teams, the Oakland A's, who have managed in recent years to clean our clock, especially last season, where we went 2-17 against the A's. If nothing else changes in my life, that has got to stop. Well, I'm excited about our chances for the upcoming season, and of course that's easy for me to say at this time, and having served now as CEO of the Mariners for the last 7 seasons, it's probably something you've heard me say before. But I really do think that the upcoming season is different, and I certainly look at it differently. There is, without any question, a heightened sense of urgency at the Mariners that we simply must get things turned around in 2007. And let me assure you that the Mariners are not oblivious to the fact that we finished last in the American League West Division 3 years in a row. Nor are we oblivious to the fact that our attendance has fallen from a high of over 3.5 million in 2002 to 2.5 million last season. And we're certainly not oblivious to the fact that the patience of our loyal fans, many of whom are here today, has just about reached the breaking point. As I told the local media at the end of last season, All of us at the Mariners, all of us, starting with me, are on the hot seat. And when I use that term, I was using a metaphor to convey the sense of urgency that all of us at the Mariners feel. And I was also saying that to make sure that our fans understood that in making the decision at the end of last season to keep Bill Bavasi and Mike Hargrove as our general manager and field manager on board, that I was not operating in a business-as-usual mode. I continue to believe that they are the right people to lead this team. Well, here are some good reasons to be optimistic about the Mariners in 2007. First, Ichiro. Last season, he posted a .322 batting average and led the American League with 224 hits. It was his 6th consecutive season with 200 or more hits, and he won his 6th consecutive Gold Glove. As many of you know, Ichiro will become, and if you didn't, you probably read it in today's Seattle Times, he will become a free agent at the end of this season, unless he is re-signed by the Mariners. It's the Mariners' long-standing policy not to comment publicly or through the media on the status of contract negotiations with free agent players or free agents to be. With this in mind, let me just say that it is my hope that Ichiro will finish his professional baseball career as a Seattle Mariner and ultimately enter the Hall of Fame as a Mariner. Here's another reason to be optimistic about the 2007 season. Richie Sexton had a scorching second half, and we're hoping last year, and we're hoping that he will start the season as he ended last season. After the All-Star break, he had a .322 average with 18 homers, 5 of them grand slams, which set a new team record. Adrian Beltre has finally found his stroke. He found it in the second half of last season. In July, starting in mid-July, he hit .285 with 18 homers and 54 RBIs, and his defense, I think you'll all agree, is beyond question. Jose Lopez and Unieski Bentoncourt, that's a tremendous double-play combination that all of us enjoy watching. I think Bentoncourt really is something special, and he could well grow to be the best shortstop of his generation. And Lopez, as you all know, was awarded for his performance by being selected as a member of the 2006 All-Star team. Kenji Jojima had a stellar rookie year. He posted a .291 average with 18 homers, and as we all expected at the Mariners, he does speak the language of baseball quite fluently. J.J. Putz was nasty last season. He had 36 saves, struck out 104 batters in only 78 innings. Raul Ibanez, he had a career year. He hit .289 with 33 homers and 123 RBIs, and besides that, Raul is one of the nicest people on the entire planet. So all of these players are going to be back, and joining them will be players that Bill Bavasi signed during the offseason that, in my opinion, will make our team much better. Free agent veterans Jose Vidro, who will be our designated hitter, and Jose Guillen, who will play right field, are, without any question, professional hitters, and they are better than the players that they replace. The addition of Guillen in the middle of the order and Vidro, who can hit anywhere from the 2nd spot to the 6th spot in the batting order, gives Mike Hargrove more options in his lineup. Several of our young players who were offensive unknowns in 2006, Jojima, Lopez, and Bentoncourt, will be better with a year of experience, and batting coach Jeff Pentland is entering his 2nd season, and hopefully the changes he worked on during the '06 season, particularly with Adrian Beltre, have now had time to take. And we've also strengthened our bench coach position, a very important position at the Mariners, by bringing back John McLaren, who served as Lou Pinella's bench coach during all the years that Lou was our field manager. and our pitching is going to be better this season. We think Miguel Batista, a right-handed free agent pitcher we signed in December, will be better than Gil Mesh. We think I'm going to get this pronunciation yet, Horacio Ramirez, a left-hander we got in a trade with the Washington Nationals, is a young Jamie Moyer statistically, not just subjectively, and at age 27, he has age on his side. And we're looking for Jared Washburn to have a much, much better year because we can give him better run support. Young arms Jake Woods and Chow Sung Beck will be better as a fifth starter than Joel Pinero was in '06. And we're excited about Felix Hernandez's second season in the majors. He goes into the '07 season without the same pressure and expectations that were really heaped on him coming out of spring training last season. And by the way, Rick Griffin told me the other day that Felix is in the best shape of his life and is determined to come to spring training ready to go. I saw him today, and it certainly looked to me like he was in pretty darn good shape. And if you want to check him out, he will be at FanFest this weekend. And finally, Chris Rietsma, a right-handed pitcher we just signed, will take over Rafael Soriano's spot as the setup man. The local media has focused on how some of the free agents we've signed are coming back from injuries, and that's true. But each of these free agents have undergone rigorous physical examinations and are now healthy and ready to go. Our defense, which was good last season, should be better this season. And as baseball fans well know, a better defense and a better offense will in turn make our pitching better. We've swapped some fly ball pitchers, Moyer, Mesh, and Pinero, for ground ball pitchers in Batista and Ramirez, and with our outstanding infield defense, ground ball pitchers are better pitchers for us than they would be elsewhere. And with Ichiro in center field and Jose Guillen in right field, we could well have one of the best throwing outfields in the majors. And finally, and this is very important, we are a much, much younger team than we have been in prior years. And this transition from a veteran team, which started in 2004, was by design and bodes well for the future. We want to win. I want to win. Mike Hargrove and Bill Bavasi want to win. We all care deeply about this franchise and getting it back to the top of the division. And I believe that what Bill Bavasi and his staff have done this offseason does represent some significant steps to improve our major league team and to put it in a position to win in 2007. Did we get everything that we wanted? Of course not. And we may well do more before the start of the regular season. But I can tell you that we'll start the 2007 season with a major league player payroll of nearly $100 million, an increase over last year's payroll, and a figure that should again put the Mariners in the top 10 major league clubs in terms of player payroll. Of course, at the end of the day, it's all about winning. The game is not played on paper. It's played on the field beginning on opening day on April 2nd. And it's certainly not about what I say here today or about what the sports media opines. One of the things that's really neat about baseball, or really any professional sports team for that matter, is that you really never know how your team is going to do in any given year. And more often than not, the experts end up getting it wrong. Take our 2001 season. At the start of spring training, I was enjoying a margarita with Lou Piniella at Abuelo's, the Mexican restaurant near our Peoria facility. Actually, over the years, Lou and I enjoyed a lot of margaritas at Abuelo's. And Lou said to me that he was really concerned about our 2001 season. In fact, as I recall, he said that he thought we could well end up having a losing season. And you all know what happened. We ended up winning 116 games that year, and we set a new American League record, 4 wins in a regular season. My good friend Lou Piniella is one of the most astute and experienced people in all of baseball, and I have great respect for him, and he's one of the smartest baseball people I've ever met. But our 2001 results show it's really impossible to tell how a team will do, so for 2007, let's all relax, let's sit back, and see what happens. It should be a very interesting season. Here are a couple of things about the Mariners that I really feel good about. For the past 7 years, the Mariners and our corporate partners through our nonprofit foundation, Mariners Care, have helped raise over $1 million each year for charitable causes in the Pacific Northwest. That's over. Thank you. That's over $7.7 million just since 2000. Every Mariner Major League player, without exception, is involved in some way in helping out in the community. Here's another thing I feel really good about. The Mariners have the highest percentage of women fans among all Major League Baseball teams. And among Major League Baseball fans, the Mariners are in the top 10 of most popular teams. I would be remiss if I did not also talk about our ownership group's long-term commitment to keeping Major League Baseball safe and secure here in Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. Over the last 7.5 years, most, if not all of you, have taken in a game at Safeco Field. It's a beautiful, beautiful place for families throughout Seattle and the Pacific Northwest to come. And we try to keep it clean and safe and secure, and we want to provide a first-class entertainment experience for every fan at every game. Now, right now, the sports media and some of our fans are caught up in the frustration that comes from enduring 3 losing seasons in a row, and that's certainly understandable. But I think in this environment, it's easy to forget what we have in Safeco Field and what our ballpark means to the quality of life in our community. For starters, Safeco Field means that Major League Baseball is secure in Seattle and that future generations never have to deal with the possibility that the Seattle Mariners could become the Tampa Bay Mariners. But for our ownership group having stepped up in early 1992 to keep the Mariners here in Seattle, Major League Baseball would not be played today in Seattle. And but for a very successful public-private partnership and our ownership group's willingness to invest significant dollars towards the construction of Safeco Field and Major League Baseball would not be here. We should never forget how hard our community leaders and faithful fans work to keep Major League Baseball here in Seattle. And one of those community leaders is here today. Without the extraordinary leadership of my friend John Ellis, I wouldn't be up here this afternoon talking about the Seattle Mariners. Thank you, John. We should never forget what great enjoyment Safeco Field has brought to millions of our fellow citizens. You know, we here in the Pacific Northwest are very lucky to have 2 of the most beautiful sports facilities in the entire world, Safeco Field and Quest Field, side by side, located just steps from the heart of downtown Seattle in one of the most vibrant cities in the country. And I'm prejudiced because I happen to think, like John Ellis, that Safeco Field is the best ballpark ever built. But there are a lot of others who share that opinion. Safeco Field consistently rates in the top 10 of surveys of best ballparks, and not just among fans. Major League ball players named Safeco Field their second favorite ballpark to play in, right behind Chicago's Wrigley Field. That's pretty good company. Safeco Field was also ranked the top family attraction in Seattle and one of the top 50 attractions in the United States by Zagat, the venerable guidebook. And Quest Field also shows up near the top of all kinds of best lists. Thanks to the 12th man, it's also the loudest stadium in the NFL. Now, people sometimes ask me if the success of one team hurts the others in the market, but I think the opposite is the case. In 2005, the Seahawks, just like the Mariners in 1995 and 2000 and 2001, put Seattle on the sporting map and brought attention to our city and state. You know, it's a bit like the old saying that a rising tide lifts all boats. There are benefits to the entire community when our sports teams flourish. And when you think about it, these two great sports stadiums have helped to make that success possible. Without Safeco Field, the Mariners would not be here. And without the promise of Quest Field, who is to say whether Paul Allen would have bought the Seahawks and turned the franchise into the winner that it is today. And while you can debate the tangible economic impact of sports teams to any community, there's no way to discount the intangible effect of having these beautiful, and I have to add, publicly owned facilities. Since Safeco Field opened on July 15, 1999, over 24 million people have attended baseball games. Let me say that again. 24 million fans have sat at Safeco Field since July of 1999. Since Quest Field opened, over 8 million people have attended football and soccer games, as well as concerts, trade shows, and any number of other events at the Stadium Exhibition Center. So together, that makes 32.2 million people in the span of just a few years, and it's a staggering number to consider. That's 32.2 million people who have had a shared community experience in one of these publicly owned facilities. You know, there is nothing like a community's attachment to a sports team. And I remember being out on the streets in those magical days of September 1995 when literally every home, every shop, every car, at least it seemed that way to me, had the Mariners games on. And I'll never forget how baseball helped bring us all together after 9/11. I remember being at Safeco Field on the night of September 19th, the first game played after 9/11. Many of you were there, and when we clinched the American League Division title with a win over the Anaheim Angels, if you'll recall, the players carried the American flag on the field, saluting the fans. And through that gesture, it was as if they were paying tribute to the strength and resilience of people of this country. And it was an awe-inspiring moment that I will never forget, and I'm sure you will not forget either. And that is what makes Safeco Field and Quest Field and the Seahawks and the Mariners and the Sonics and the Storm, that's what it means. That's what they mean to this community. It's not just about how much it costs to build a sports facility or whether it should be a public or private investment. The real value of professional sports is what it brings to the heart and soul of the community. The shared experiences, the passion that these teams and these games inspire. And you really can't place a value on it. But if you want to talk dollars and cents, here's something you might not know. Under the Mariners' lease with the Public Facilities District, the PFD, the municipal corporation which was created by the state legislature to build and own Safeco Field, at some point in the not-too-distant future, the Mariners will actually begin sharing 10% of our profits with the PFD, in other words, with the people of the state of Washington. Fans sometimes ask me what I enjoy most about being the Mariners CEO. Actually, after 7 years of being called every name in the book, including being called a money-grubbing, soulless leech, ordinary pond scum, ruthless and diabolical, and a member of baseball's axis of evil, I sometimes wonder whether I missed a fork in the road when I took this job. But on a serious note, let me tell you what I most enjoy. First and foremost, I enjoy seeing the Mariners win. Like my predecessor, John Ellis, I suffer through every game. And if we win, life is wonderful, and if we lose, it's miserable. Winning is far more important to me and my fellow owners than profitability, despite what you may have heard or read. If our ownership group put profitability first, we would not, over the past 7 seasons, have maintained one of the highest Major League player payrolls in all of baseball, far greater than many teams in much larger cities in Seattle. Nor would we have invested in the multi-year guaranteed contracts for players like Ichiro, Beltre, and Sexton, just to name a few. Besides winning, I also enjoy watching our fans enjoy Safeco Field. There are so many fun things to do at our ballpark during a game, including the game. And I'm especially fond of watching parents bring their children down on the field to run around the bases after one of our weekend games. The joy that I observe in the parents and the realization that years from now, those kids will bring their children down in the field is something that really, really gets to me. It reminds me of what is so unique about baseball and how our national pastime really does bring generations of parents and children together. Mark my word, we are intent on turning things around this coming season. But having said that, I hope that you will never lose sight of how important Major League Baseball is to our community and what Mariner baseball played at Safeco Field brings to Seattle and the Pacific Northwest. Let me conclude by thanking those of you who are Mariner fans for your patience, for your support of our team over the years, and your willingness to continue that support in good times and not so good times. We're going to get this team back to the winning ways of 1995 and 2000 and 2001, when the World Series in Seattle was just a game or two away. Thank you, and go Mariners.
Thanks, Howard. Thanks not only for your leadership of the Mariners, but for all you do in our community. You set a great example for all of us. And speaking about examples, I told you I love baseball. My favorite baseball story recently was Ichiro, soft-spoken gentleman that he is, was reportedly to have taken his teammates to task for putting forth, more solid effort. And some people kind of guffawed at that, and then I loved we had the World Baseball Classic, and at the end of the World Baseball Classic there was one Major League Baseball player left standing, Ichiro Suzuki. I think he proved all he had to prove right out there on the field. Anyway, thank you once again to all of our program participants today. Julie Miller, welcome to this great Rotary Club. We're proud to have you as a member. Next week, January 31st, geez, 1 month already shot. We will meet at the Red Lion on 5th Avenue, and we're going to have a special business and economic development message from the CEO of Puget Sound Energy, Steve Reynolds. And also, and I always enjoy this, the Business Mentor Committee will be hosting participating students from the University of Washington and minority business owners they're working with this year. And I know that you'll enjoy meeting those people. Which brings us to this week's pretty good rule. The world is changing, and it will continue to change, like it or not. Our challenge is to help ensure that it changes for the better. See you next week. We are adjourned.
Seattle Rotary Online is made possible in part by a grant from Enterprise Seattle. For over 35 years, Enterprise Seattle has provided client-based economic development services to businesses throughout King County and its 39 cities. More information on Enterprise Seattle and how they help businesses grow and prosper can be found at www.enterpriseseattle.org. And by First Choice Health, working with the Washington Health Information Collaborative to use technology to bring better health care to patients throughout the Pacific Northwest. First Choice Health.